Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Profotech team. I am Sanjay. We are learning CodeIgniter version 3 HMVC tutorial for beginners. This is our part 17. Inside this video session guys, we are going to validate our form as well as save our data to our database table. So basically guys, if we back to browser, so far this is the form actually we had developed called name, author, publication and description. These are the fields so far we have embedded inside this form. Now we are going to validate this form by using our form validation library. So back to editor. Now this is the controller that we had created called book.php. Now inside this controller, this is the method basically used to submit our form. How can we know? So if we back to our createbook.php, this is the view file, and inside this view file in the action parameter we have attached this URL. So if I copy this route back to routes.php, search here. Now as we can see that inside book controller we have called submit create book. So if I copy this method name, search this method inside this file, and this is method right here. So inside this method we are going to use called form validation library and validate all the input data which we are taking from the form. So before making use of form validation library, we have to add some more attributes inside this form tag, and something, let's say method equal to post, and let's say name equal to frm, something we have called submit book, so it should, let's say, frm create book, and also let's have an id, let's frm hyphen create hyphen book here. Now these are the attributes that we had attached with this form tag. Now back to our book controller, go to construct function, and let's add one more library, something here, it's called form underscore validation. So by using this form validation library we are going to validate our form. So back here, now let's say that this form validation, and we have a method called set rules, and inside this the first parameter we have to pass the name attribute. So go here. So this is txt name, copy that, pasting it here, and the user defined message something called name, and here we have to pass the rules here. So let's say that we want that the txt name field should be required, and also I want that the max length of this name field should not be more than 50 characters. So this is the first rule that we have made. So if I again copy and paste and go here, and this is for the txt author, so copy this field name back here. So this is txt author. Also we want that this field should be required, and the max length is all about 50 characters. Again copy and paste, go here. Now this time we have called txt publication, copy, pasting it here. Now this time we have publication required, and let's say that max length should be 100 characters. Now finally we have to take the description. So let's say that description field is optional, so I'm going to make attachment here. So this field should be optional, so optional here, and these are the fields actually we need to require. So I am putting just a star to indicate that these fields are required. So if I save all these changes, back to browser, and if I reload this page, now as we can see that star symbol here, and this is optional parameter. Now next we are going to submit our form. So back to CodeIgniter. Let's say that if this form validation, and we have a method called run, it will basically run our form, and if the return value of this return function should be false, it means that we have some validation messages. So we have to redirect to the same view file. So this load view, and the view file we have to go inside book and the create book. Else, inside this else block here, actually we have some error. So go back, and here we have passed our form successfully. Now if we go to this view file, now we have to collect our error messages. So let's say that here PHP echo, let's say form error, and inside this form error we have to pass the name attribute. These are the functions basically, guys, we had discussed in our CodeIgniter playlist, and also even we had discussed inside this HMVC tutorial in our previous videos. So please check this out. Also, if I again copy this form error, pasting it here, and this is all about txt author, pasting it here, and if I copy this txt publication, this is the name attribute, and pasting it here. All we have done now. Now one more attribute we are going to attach with these fields called PHP, something called echo set underscore value, and this is void because we are going to keep our existing value while getting any error inside this form. So copy, pasting it here, txt author, and finally copy the value and pasting it here. This is all about our txt publication. Now if we save all these changes, back to browser, reload this page. Now let's say that we are going to submit this form without filling any data. Now as we can see that the name field is required, author field is required, and the publication field is required, and we are not getting any error messages with this description because this is optional parameter. Now only we have to convert these error messages into red color. So if I inspect on these error messages, now here we have a paragraph tag. Now inside this, if I wrap this paragraph tag with a span tag, so back to view file, and let's say that this should be something span, and inside this span tag I'm going to specify a class, something known as error class. So pasting it here. Now again copy this, pasting it here, and we had done now. So copy this class error back to top, and let's say that inside this style I'm going to define a style tag for our some CSS, and here I'm going to define an error class, and let's say that color equal to red here, and this should be something span dot error. It means span element have a error class. So if we save all these changes, back here, reload this page, close this inspect. Now as we can see that the black color message is converted now into red color. Now only the thing actually we need to do is to save all the data while submitting form inside our database table. Let's check about the maximum length validation inside this form. So let's say that I'm going to specify this is the length of a string, press submit. Now as we can see that there is no error messages appearing for this maximum length. Let me check that. So back to CodeIgniter. Now inside this, this is the 50 characters actually we had attached. So let's define more and more characters, and something like here, if I press submit, now we have added something called the name field cannot exceed 50 characters in length. Now it means that rules are working fine. So back to CodeIgniter, Let's say that our form successfully passed our form validations. Now this time we are going to save our data. So back to our module. Now inside this book module, I am to make a model. So inside this models folder, let me make a file and something book underscore model.php. Now inside this file, I am to declare the class. So let's say class book underscore model extends. It should be ci underscore model. Now inside this, the first thing first, we need to declare our construct function. So public function construct, and inside this let's say parent and the construct. Now inside this class I'm going to make a method. So that method basically save our data or insert our data to our database table. So public function, let's say insert underscore book here. Now inside this insert book method I'm to pass an array and that contain all the data of our form. And finally, after taking the data, so let's say if this db insert, and here we have to pass the table name. The first parameter should be the table name. So back to phpMyAdmin. So this is the table, so copy the table name, pasting it here, and in the second attribute we have to pass the array of the data. So let's say that if return true, it means successfully we have saved our data, else let's return equal to false, it means we have some error. So back to our book.php, and firstly we have to load our model. So this load model, and inside this model we have called book underscore model. Now if we copy back here, and let's say that if this book model, and inside this book model we have a method called insert book, copy that, pasting it here. Now inside this we have to pass an array, means array of data. So let's say that insert underscore data equal to array, and inside this array the first parameter we need, if I click on tbl books, go to structure. Now here are the columns called the book name. So the first column we have called book underscore name. Inside this we want about the name here. So the name equal to comes from this input post, and this input post contains a parameter something called txt name. This value basically gives us the value of our name app field. So copy paste 3-4 times for the txt author, for txt publication, and finally we need one more field for our description. So copy that, and this is txt description, copy this name field and pasting it here. So this time this is for the author, this is for the publication, and finally this is for the description. Now we have to pass all fields right here inside this array. So copy this book author, pasting it here, book publication, pasting it here, and finally we need about book description. So copy and pasting it here. So here we need about author, publication, and finally we need about description. Now this is the array which we need to pass inside this insert book, and remember we need only one value or one parameter inside this insert book. So successfully we have passed that. Now let's say that successfully we have inserted our book. So inside that condition actually we need to set our session. So this let's say session, let's say set underscore flash data, and let's say success, this is the key, and let's say that here book has been created successfully. Else let's say that we have some errors. So if I again copy this session, pasting it here, and in the key should be something error, and let's say that here if I remove this message and let's say failed to create book, all we have done now, we have successfully inserted our book into our table. After successful insertion, this is the session message actually we have set, else we have this error message. Now before using this session library, actually we need to load that. So go to construct function, and here one more library, actually we are using something called session here, so we have to load that. Now finally all we have done now, the next thing we need to collect the error messages to this view file. So let's say that here inside this row, or let's say inside this create book, I am to define a PHP tag, and let's say that if this session flash data and we have success message, it means success key what we have defined. So inside that condition I am to use our bootstrap called div, let's say class alert success, and inside this if I copy this line and pasting it here, so let's say echo and pasting it here, else we have some error. So copy this again, if block, and pasting it here. Now let's say that if we have error, so inside that condition actually we are going to use called alert danger. It will convert the error messages into red color. So all we have done now, so if we save all these changes, and also the last thing actually we need to do is that we need to redirect after this book insertion. So let's say that here, so it should be redirect, and inside this redirect method the route actually we are going to use called book create book, because it will load the view file. And one more thing that we have used called this db, but as we know that we have only made the database connection, so far we have not loaded our database inside this application. So firstly let me check that about the database loading condition. So go to controller, now here we have to load that. So this load database, now this will load our this db instance to the application. So if we save all these changes, back to browser, now again go back, reload this page. Now let's say that we are going to create our first book. So book 1, let's say author 1, something let's say publication 1, and let's say that it is sample description. So if I press submit button, now book has been created, but as I think that we have pressed 3 to 4 times, so back to top, and while clicking 3 to 4 times 3 records has been inserted. So again check all, delete all these rows from this table, and right now the table is now empty. So again go back here, and let's say that book 1, let's say author 1, it should be publication 1, and this should be let's say sample description, and I'm going to click on this button. So book has been created successfully. Go back to table, reload this page. Now we have a single data inside this table. So successfully guys, we have validated our form, as well as by putting our some conditions on the form validations, also by making our model, loading some libraries, setting some session, we have now saved our data to our database table. So successfully guys, inside this video, by using our form validation, by using our session, also by making a model, Also, loading our database, we had seen that how can we save our data to our database table as well as about form validations. So inside this video session guys, if you have any doubt, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.